All right, now we're going to take a look at the way that Kotlin implements enumerations. I'm going to start with a simple example where we simply have an enumeration of directions. So we have direction and we have north, south, east, and west. It's a very simple enumeration that we have here. There is nothing particularly special about this. We can start using this enumeration. So we'll make a main function. And here, if I want to make, for example, a particular direction, I can say val dir equals direction dot east. So this makes a member of the enumeration. And if I print this out, if I do a print line for the dir, you'll see that it's actually going to be printed out rather nicely. So here is the output. We get east as the result. So it looks really good. Now, enumerations can be a lot more powerful than that. So let's look at a more complicated example. Here I'm going to have an enum class called color. And color is going to be a class which actually takes a argument. So it's going to take an argument defining the RGB coordinates or components rather of the color. So I'll have val RGB here as a property of type int. And then what will happen is if I'm going to have colors like red, green, and blue, then all of them are going to define the RGB property. So for example, we'll have the color red being defined as the hexadecimal FF0000. And similarly, we'll do the green and the blue. So green will be OX00FF00. And similarly, the blue is going to be OX0000FF. Okay, so now we have slightly more complicated members of the enumeration, and we can similarly make instances of them. So for example, if I want to make a blue color, I'll say var b equals color dot blue once again. But this time around, I want to show a bit more of how you can manipulate the actual color that we've made here. So let's do a rather complicated print line. So first of all, I'm going to say that B has the name, and then we can get the name of the enum instance. Actually, when we did a printout here, it actually took that name, but now we're going to get it ourselves using the string interpolation. So I can, for example, say b.name here, that will output the name, and in addition, I can say that it has the value being equal to, and here if I want to take the RGB property, all I have to do is basically say b.rgb. That gets me my integral value for what the actual thing is. So that's how you can introspect this. In addition, you can find out the position of the entry inside the enumeration class, and for that you would say position equals dollar and then b.ordinal. So ordinal tells you where inside the overall enum this particular element is. So let's actually run this and see what we get as the end result. All right, so you can see that B has the name blue. It has the value 255. You can see that it has FF towards the end, and position is equal to 2. So this is 0, this is 1, and this is 2. That's how we figure out what the actual position is. But since these elements are instances of the class called color, we can also add additional features. Like, for example, I can add an abstract function here. So let's have an abstract function which is going to be called example, and it's going to be returning a string which is an example of some object in the real world which has this color. Now you'll see lots of red underlining here all over the place because now each of the members has to implement this abstract function, and we can do this just by pressing Alt Enter and implementing the members. So here, for example, an example of a color red would be something like blood. An example of the color green, let's do the Alt Enter once again. Sorry, this should be a comma in here, and then yeah, a bit problematic, some of the code generation. So let's generate the missing members here, and I'm going to return what's green. Well, grass is green. The grass is green on the other side. Obviously, the comma is out of place. It should actually be in here. And let's finally implement the blue color. So here I'm going to return, well, the sky is blue, so I'm going to return sky like so. Notice there is also an inspection towards the end. Essentially, you have to put a semicolon in here. This is a particularly peculiar requirement of Kotlin, but if you have some members inside the class, then after all the members, you have to put in a semicolon. Okay, so now that we have an override of some particular function, we can actually invoke this function on any of the members. So for example, what I can do is I can say something like print line $B is the color of, and then use that function that we just made. So I can say b.example. That's how simple it is to invoke a function. And if I run this on the color blue, then the output I should get is blue is the color of sky, which seems sensible enough. All right, what we can also do for a given enum is we can find out all the values. So for example, I can say for color in color.values, we're going to print line the color that we're getting, and this will actually give us a listing of all the elements inside. So we get red, green, and blue as the output. And the final thing I want to show is how you can actually get the value of the element that you have, in the sense of being able to feed in a string and get an enum value instead. So for example, print line value of red is, and what I'm going to do here with string interpolation is I will take the entire enum, so I'll say color, and I'll ask for the value of, and here I'll provide red as a string. And here I will get an instance of red, and obviously the program will crash if I give it some invalid value. And given that I have a red, I can do the RGB, which we also defined as a property up here. And when I run this, you can see that I have the value of red as this rather large value. So as you can see, enums are fairly powerful in Kotlin.